Okay, there we go. Last screw is in the plate. Now I just have to cut a center hole. Now once again, I'm cutting the center hole so I can drill a bigger hole so I can get my router bits up out of the plate so it does us some good. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to clamp down the plate using the hole in the table is my clearance. Going to take my router and I'm going to make a plunge cut using a 1/4 inch spiral cutter on the router. Now I'm working with the router not completely in the base, as in it's not tightened down. So I want to be real sure to work with it with 2 hands and take things slowly. If you go too fast, if you're not controlling the router, it can come loose on you if you're not down in the body, and all kinds of problems when you got a high torque motor running free in the garage. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And there we have it, a nice starter hole. Now it's mostly a 1/4 inch in diameter, which is real handy because the bit in my hole saw is a 1/4 inch in diameter. Now the hole saw size I selected just happens to correspond with the base of the biggest router bit I own. So I can bring it down to the table and regulate its height when I'm using it. So just make a quick cut here. Now once again, we try to do that slowly so we don't end up melting all the glass, or the plexiglass that is, because you could just fuse the hole nice and closed again, and then you'd have your cutter stuck in the glass and just anarchy would rule afterward. So there we go. Nice hole. Looks like it's pretty well centered, at least way centered for my router, just like that. And it is large enough. I'm going to unplug that router since I got it rolling around like that, so that my cove bit can go through cleanly. No problems. Now we've got a router, or I should say we have a router table that is ready to use. Whoops. I'll tell you, if it weren't for the indicator marks, I'd be in big trouble half the time. So I'll put this foot plate away, put the bit away, take care of my tools, and we'll come back and we'll start thinking about making cuts to mount our table saw, because now we got the router table we need to create the plate for mounting our table saw table. So come back, we'll see ya. Stand by. Okay, now on the other plate I've drawn a rough line of where I want that blade to cut, so I'm just sort of going to push myself up and dead center that on the line and tighten my fence up. Now, unlike a saw blade, the router is going to just cut a 1/4 inch hole, which means I'm not too worried about, is it the same depth at the front of the fence as it is at the back of the fence. I'm worried about 1 point from the center of the fence to the center of the router bit. I got my fence set up. Like I said, I was only worried about 2 points: center of the fence, center of the router bit. I plugged my router in. I'm going to use the switch on the table itself to control power on, power off to the router. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop down, making a plunge cut into the workpiece, keeping it in contact with the fence, and then I'll slowly feed it the length of the cut that I'm looking for. It's only about 5.5, 6 inches here. And then I'll power it down and I'll lift my workpiece off. Of course, we're using power tools. So on go the eyes. It's going to be kind of loud, so on go the ears. And here we go. Okay, that takes care of my first cut. Now, because I got to accommodate different size blades, not just one size, I'm going to go ahead and make this a double cut. So I'm going to move this in about 1/4 inch. So I have up to a 1/2 inch opening. And I'll go power, plunge cut. Now in that first one, I didn't get quite the cut I wanted to get off of it. So I just made a small adjustment to the fence. I was able to move the workpiece real slowly and just cut that little bit extra that I wanted to get. I'm pretty sure I might have to make another cut, extending a little bit, but this will get me started with the saw. Got my saw. Peel the blade guard back. Because after all, I've got to maneuver around some screws here. Okay, grab a permanent marker. And I'm going to get the basic 4-hole or 3 holes to start. I'm making sure that I give myself some adjustment room around the blade, because when I do this, the only fixed point I'm going to have to start is the single hole down at the bottom, because I cut this in a triangle. 2 holes at the top, 1 hole centered at the bottom. I'm going to elongate these holes slightly so I have some adjustment room when I mount the saw, so I can make sure I mount the saw square to the table. Because if you'll recall, we've got a cross-cut sled that has got to be able to make 90-degree cuts to the saw blade. So I've got my holes matched. I'm going to go ahead and start drilling them. And when I'm done, I'm going to have a single hole here, 2 1/2-inch slotted holes, just wide enough for the bolt that's going to go through. We're going to have these guys countersunk, and it's going to be ready to go. So stay tuned. We'll be back.